You never quite know what to expect in a day out on the water, kind of like these crews are about to find out here, where this incident occurred just about a week ago on the Creek Locks in Zeeland, close to the Dutch-Belgian border. The incident occurred mid-afternoon when the inland tanker Nikki was struck by the bow of the inland freighter Volturno. The impact left a gash above the waterline on the Nikki's port side, while the Volturno sustained visible damage to its bow. Fortunately, in this situation, no injuries were reported and there's been no visible signs of pollution, and both vessels eventually were able to continue underway. Authorities have launched an investigation to determine what led to the accident and at this time have given no actual cause. Immediately following the incident, the Nikki did remain moored near the lock for visible inspection due to the hole in the side of its hull, and the Volturno was able to proceed on its way to Antwerp, where it currently is docked and has been since the incident. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to bring us over to Florida and take us down to the Miami Beach area, where this was the scene just this past week, when Miami Beach police units and officials with Florida Wildlife Conservation Commission wound up responding to the scene of a pontoon crash near Sunset Islands this past week. According to FWC officials, the pontoon vessel had one operator and 8 passengers on board at the time of the incident. According to them, the vessel was traveling the Malloy Channel when it wound up striking marker number 26 as seen in the images here. According to the reports, 3 of the people who were on board the vessel were actually ejected from the boat when it wound up hitting the pole. Security camera footage does show the incident as it occurs, which just adds to the bizarrety of the event, because as you can see, the vessel was traveling at a high rate of speed, but the marker is plainly visible. Usually in situations like this where we see a boat hit a marker, there's typically something that's gone wrong or something that's affected the visibility of the vessel to see the marker. These are high, bright colors, and in this situation we don't see any of that, which really makes it odd as to why the vessel wound up hitting it. At this time, FWC has launched an investigation to try and determine what exactly went wrong on this, but really have not released any details at the moment. FWC officials did claim that the 3 people who were ejected from the vessel were taken to the hospital for evaluation. They've not released any official statement on the condition of those people. I have seen unofficially though that everybody who was on the vessel is okay. However, I really am interested to see what exactly they come back with on this one, is what the cause of the accident was. Let me know in the comments below what you think may have possibly caused this incident. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over to Egypt, where this was the scene a few weeks back when the popular liveaboard Emperor 7 Seas was destroyed by a fire in the port of Galib. The popular dive boat was operated by Emperor divers, and they did release a statement claiming that in the early hours, the Emperor 7 Seas was moored at the port of Galib when a fire broke out, and unfortunately it could not be controlled. They claimed that the situation was quickly put under control and that all clients and crew were now ashore in the port of Galib and were providing assistance. Emperor Divers is a well-known and respected dive company in the area with a solid track record of safety. However, one of the concerning factors right now is the 7 Seas is now the 9th liveaboard lost in Egypt since February 2023, which is now starting to raise concerns about safety standards in the industry. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us back over to the Pacific and take us over to Cloudbreak, Fiji, where this was the scene just a little over a week ago, where a captain was caught actually snoozing on the job. I kid you not, in this situation you might think something's wrong with the captain on the boat you see running wild here, but apparently that is just not the case. The crew that you see chasing him down does eventually wind up getting on this boat, and he wakes up. He was just taking a nap for some reason, fell asleep, and the boat wound up going off on him. Really is kind of hard to believe that you would sleep through a boat just spinning around out here, but according to people who were there on the scene, they said there was no medical issues involved. The guy was just snoozing on the job. They actually wound up waking him up and wound up driving back to go pick up his next group of surfers, but still a pretty wild one to watch, and our guy got super lucky that this crew wound up catching him where they could get over here, get on the boat, get it back under control before anything really bad happened. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over to California, where this was the scene just a few days ago when a large sailing vessel wound up beached near Davenport. According to local reports, 2 sailors were taking the boat from California back up to Oregon where they live, as they had just purchased the vessel. However, as you can tell from these images, things did not go to plan, as they wound up encountering some extremely rough rough seas near Davenport. A local eyewitness on the scene actually wound up speaking to the two men, who kind of explained their situation to him. According to reports, they wound up calling for help and the Coast Guard came out to assist the two men and get them back to shore. But what they explained to the eyewitness was that they called for help because they were too tired, and that the seas had gotten really rough and they were getting like 2 to 3 foot of air in between waves, and they were just too tired to continue fighting the storm, so they opted to call the Coast Guard for help and basically give up on the boat. The vessel sat there beached until the city of Davenport got some heavy equipment in to get the boat removed, but you may be wondering why they would just give up on the vessel so easily. Well, after doing a little digging, it appears that I found that reason. Facebook Marketplace is a wonderful thing, and there's a little tab you can go to where you can see sold items. Well, apparently the reason these guys gave up on this boat is because they paid $399 for the vessel. It was a giveaway vessel that somebody just wanted gone. Yet this crew decided they were going to go down, buy it for $399, and sail it up the California coast all the way back to Oregon like it was some sort of a good idea. There's no way in the world I would ever go buy a boat that was listed for $399 expecting that I was going to sail it anywhere, but this crew did just exactly that. And as you can see from the images, the boat wasn't in bad condition, but some of these images are obviously showing it during its better days, but I can't imagine it was very seaworthy at that price. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over to Amsterdam, where this was the scene just a few days ago, where here you can see a local cruise ship and a tanker have a near collision in the waterways. According to local reports and sources local to the scene, the cruise ship seen in the images here forgot a key item. They decided they were going to go ahead and depart their berthing, but never announced over the VHF radio that they were doing so, which is typically customary so all other vessels in this area know what's going on. Now, fortunately in this situation, the commercial captain who was controlling the tanker vessel saw the boat come off the berthing and was able to do some quick emergency maneuvers to try and avoid contacting the cruise ship. Fortunately in this situation, no injuries were reported and neither vessel actually claimed any damage due to the quick work of the commercial captain on the tanker. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over to Australia, where this was the scene just a few days ago when a stranded sailor was rescued off of North Straybrook Island in Queensland this past week with the assistance of a fisherman and a Sunshine Coast life flight helicopter. The sailor had set off one of his emergency beacons that he had on board the vessel, causing the helicopter crew to launch to go search for the boat. By the time they reached the scene, the man was found atop of his overturned vessel approximately 3.5 miles offshore. Fortunately, a fisherman nearby responded to a request for help from the Australian Maritime Safety Authority and helped the man onto his boat and was able to successfully rescue him from his overturned vessel and bring him back to shore without injury. Thanks for watching, crew. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of Boating News of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening out on your waterways, be sure to hit us up at Broncos Guru on Facebook or Instagram and let us know when you might see your stories over here. Just like Jill Bogerman, Adam Coolidge, and Picasso West did this week. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here. If not, we're coming to steal your drain plug.